You guys, I'm going to introduce you to Kyle Nekrash. He is guest tonight. He joined us. He joined Isagenix in June of 2004. He only took a look at the income in 2008. So if you guys were a product user for a while before you decided to build a business, put a 1 in the chat. He since has become an Isagenix legacy member. He has earned well-deserved awards such as the Rising Star Award in 2010, the Personal Excellence Award in 2011, Shooting Star Award in 2013. Kyle achieved millionaire status in April of 2013, number 85, and served on the millionaire panel for 2 consecutive years. And he's currently serving his 2nd year for the Canada Field Advisory Board. Isagenix honored him with Man of the Year in 2014. He's currently the number 5 income earner in Canada and number 43 worldwide. You guys put some explanation points in the chat if you are excited to hear from the number 5 income earner in Canada. He's married to his beautiful wife for over 20 years, has 2 amazing children, Nathan and Julia. And so we are going to welcome tonight 4-star Crystal Executive, 8-star Platinum Kyle Nekrash. But I'm going to just tell you something personal. He probably doesn't know this, but he trained at my very, very, very first event when I was brand new and Janny made me go and I was by myself and I had no idea what I was doing. And I just remember thinking, he is so relatable. He makes this so not complicated, and just that belief that like anybody can do this, and was so fun. And he trained at NYKO, and that night, and day 1, I was out to dinner with some of the girls, and I said, you know, what's your favorite part of the event so far? What did you love? And there was like this astounding, all of us really loved Kyle's piece. And it was, I think in the last couple of years, we've had this overwhelm of like, okay, I don't want to do weight loss anymore, and I'm body shaming, but oh my gosh, I can't just lead with collagen because the BB is not so high, but when do I put nootropic or adaptogen in there? And, you know, and it was like, we have so many products in this overwhelm, and I was obsessed, and I'm a nutritionist, so I get the products, right? But when he just showed the way that he prevents the whole store, and honestly, when he said, how many of you sold a 30-day recently and asked them what they use for their skincare and brought up Celatois? And I'm like looking at my entire row, and I was like, not me. And I said, we have to have you on a team call. So Kyle is a light in our company, you guys. If you have the chance of meeting him and his wife, they're always friendly. They'll always answer your questions. They epitomize this culture, and it's such a treat to have you on. So with no further ado, Kyle, I'd love to welcome you and maybe just kick things off with your story, because many people do not know you.
Lauren, wow. I'm sitting here politely blushing, you know. I'm in my last name, Nekrash, is going to be ringing through pretty soon with all the blushes that are happening. So thank you so much for such a kind introduction. And you know what's funny? You were part of the chat, and Shruti says, you know, what's your bio? And I'm like, I'm just a guy from 100 Mile. And a lot of you probably don't know where 100 Mile is, but it is probably one of the smallest towns in British Columbia, the province I live in Canada. And yeah, you know what, guys? I mean, this is about as dressed up as I get for team calls. Any other time, my other team calls, baseball cap, hoodie, my Lulu pants, and I'm outside with my chickens, garden, chopping wood, and, you know, just riding my dirt bike, right? Those are things that I'm passionate about. And so when it came to Isagenix, and again, thank you for all that, Lauren, but it's something that, or not, but I don't like that word. Thank you. That's another thing I learned. And Jimmy Smith taught me this. Don't say but. It's kind of like when your wife says, I love you, but. He goes, that's like, you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good. So my story goes that Megan and I, we had a clinic in town, and it was a multidisciplinary practice. We had chiropractic, massage therapy, acupuncture, laser, physio, all those sorts of things. And so my sponsor, the gentleman who relentlessly kept on introducing Isagenix to me, was Warren Lance. A lot of you guys probably know who Warren is. A very loud and boisterous guy. And he used to come to my clinic, and I would hear him from my treatment room, which was way on the other side of the wing. And I would literally get out from my patient, crawl on my hands and knees, and I'd open the sliding glass door because we had 2 secretaries, and I'd say, tell him I'm gone to lunch. And so, you know, he won an award in Isagenix called the Persistence Award. And I'm so grateful for that, because he did not give up. And so for some of you that may have connected with somebody once or twice or 3 times, and you're thinking, Warren connected with me, Christmas parties, he would come into my clinic. I mean, over and over and over, till finally one day I was like, to get you off my back, I'm going to do this. And so you guys, you know, I probably, if you want to pick the biggest skeptic in the world at the time, And it's no joke, because I really put him through the ringer. And so he said to me, he says, if you try these, I'll never talk to you again if you don't get any good results. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to embarrass you and I don't have to hear from you again. Well, back then we only had a 9-day. You probably heard that from stage. All we had was the 9-day and a total health and wellness system. And it really didn't taste too pleasant, to tell you the truth. It was one of those things where you'd, plug and chug, or we would mix different kinds of herbal teas just to kind of defer the flavor. But you guys, there's pivotal moments in this profession. And the first pivotal moment is always that aha moment, the initial one where, be it your face, be it your hair, be it your body, where you look down and you're like, oh no, what do I do now? It worked, right? Because most people don't believe that this is something that's going to actually shift them. So Isogenics shifted me. And my wife, who's the runner in the family, I'm not. If it doesn't have a motor, then I'm not passionate about it. I'll never forget sitting there with her. And I said, babe, I just want to go for a run. I want to run. She goes, you hate running. I says, I know, but it's just how I feel. And so you guys, that was my aha moment. And that aha moment really had me in a place where, I continued to use the product. My wife, one of the stories that most of you don't know, is that she worked with another nutraceutical company. And so she was you would call it a sales rep for Western Canada. And she marketed to naturopaths, to doctors, to chiropractors. And so their company, it was called Douglas Labs, I think at the time. And so she had all these custom formulations. She had all these different things that help people with their frustrations. She's looking at me going, what are you doing? And so I was a closet user for quite a while. And what I mean is the true closet user. I would get the product and I would hide them. And as I was using my shake, I would just place another one up there. And she'd be like, aren't you done that yet? I'm going, no, I'm just, conserving it. I really like the taste of it. Till one day, she beat me home before the driver dropped off that beautiful brown box. So, the next aha moment came when, and really, I want you to pay attention to these aha moments because they're really pivotal. You can tell I've been talking a lot tonight. They're pivotal in your business. I think they're pivotal in all Isogenics business. Number one is the aha with me. The second aha moment is when I very first shared this with somebody. And right, I worked in the clinic. So who was my audience? Patients. And I was like, I am not going to be one of those practitioners that does this. And even my own governing body, it was illegal to do network marketing, but I did it anyway. So I shared with a lady who had come to me for nutritional advice because I had a little bit of a sports nutrition background and I was customizing diets and regimes for people. And she had been to Japan teaching English as a second language. And she came to me and I had seen her for 5 years and she put on quite a bit of weight, dark circles in her eyes, and she starts crying. And she goes, can you help me? And I sat there and I thought, there's nothing in the grocery store. In my mind, I didn't say this to her. I was like, there's nothing in the grocery store that's going to impact where you are. And I did the most courageous thing for me in that moment is I said, have you ever heard of a program called Isogenics? She's like, what? And I did the second scariest thing I ever did in my life is I put her in contact with Warren. You remember my loud, boisterous friend? And so he enrolled, helped me to enroll her. This is when 30 days just started. And I'll just call her Margaret. Margaret didn't come back for like 5 weeks. So in the 5th week, I'm phoning Warren saying, this is why I'll never do this as a business. I just lost a patient. So who came in the next day was Margaret. And she walked into the treatment room and she gives me a big hug, which is not normal from patients. And she starts to cry again. And she says, I can't thank you enough for sharing these products with me. She goes, Kyle, I'm down 18 pounds, 28 inches. She goes, look at the circles. She goes, I've never felt like this before. That was aha moment number 2. I was like, wow, how many people have crossed my path that I denied that experience because of a conversation in my head? Not a truth, not a fact, just a conversation in my head. And so that's when I, for better lack of terms, vowed that I would never let that happen again for the next person. And so, you know, you introduce it to people, and the third aha comes. They talk about the financial return. And, you know, I wasn't a super fast grower, but I was consistent. And I remember we were having our second child, and I said to my wife, who still was not happy with what I was doing, you got to imagine 4 years of me sort of, you know, I was closet using for a couple of those, but then starting to build a business, she still wasn't there. And I said, honey, I'm going to make enough money that when we have our second child, Nathan, you're not going to have to go back to the clinic. And she's like, oh, and when are you going to do this by? And I says, I'm going to do it by January. And it was August. She goes, 6 months, you're going to replace my income. And I said, yes. And so you guys, it's one thing when your wife tells you to do something, but it's another when you promise something to her. There's a level of commitment that a guy engages into that you become unstoppable. And so I didn't do it for January. I did it for February. And so, you know, we still continued to both work at the practice. And, you know, it was one of those things where year after year, we just kept on doubling what we were doing. So the first year we replaced our clinical income. The next year we doubled that. The following year we doubled that double. And it just kept on growing. And one of the things I recommend, especially for you guys as well, there's lots of lessons in my story, that we backed out slow. We worked Saturdays for 13 years. Imagine that in our clinic, Saturdays for 13, to offer space for people who work 9 to 5, right? And so I'll never forget when I said to Meg, I go, babe, I said, let's stop working Saturdays. She's like, really? I go, yeah, like, we don't have to. Let's stop working Saturdays. And it was like long weekends for the first time ever, but not just, you know, once or twice a year, every weekend. And so we did that for a period of time. And then again, I was like, do you want to take Fridays off? Let's get other people in the clinic. And so we backed out slowly over the next 4 years. And so, yeah, that's in a nutshell how we got rocking and rolling. And the rest of it is just, you know, I guess you can just ask me questions. I'm sure I can fill the gaps.
Well, that's awesome. And hopefully you can see the chat here because there's a lot of people that are just loving the story. And I did not know you were a closet user from Megan. That's a funny little piece of your story. So I would love, and I don't know if you have the slides or if you don't need them, that's okay. Or if you want me to make you the host or anything, but really to just kind of go through what you did at NYKO. I loved just how you presented that whole story, the questions. And I think we have so many new people, many who are not at NYKO. If you guys were not at NYKO or have not seen the recording, will you put a 3 in the chat? I just want to see like even who's on the call that didn't see Cal's piece, but even for those who did, and if you were there, put a 2 in the chat. Let's just see how many were there. But I think it was so brilliant. And right now, especially with the 20% PIP, that you don't have to have these hacks. You know, it was like we had to get people in an Afterglow bundle, or we're talking about nootropic because there wasn't a PIP with it, or, you know, it was, we were afraid to kind of mix and match the skincare and the weight loss because, you know, you might not get the VD or we didn't get the PIP. And I just think right now, the way that you're presenting all of our solutions, and from the, you know, the business builder side, knowing they're going to get 20% if no matter what that is, it's just a perfect time for that. And I'd love for you to just kind of go through that whole presentation.
Yeah, I'll make you a deal. What I'll do is I do have the slides in front of me. I swipe them. Usually you don't get to keep them, but I got them. And so I would love to, and again, if you're writing something in the comments, I'm like an ADD character. If I tried to do both at the same time, I would lose it all. So if you can, if there are questions along the way, you know, hit your raise hand button and, you know, I'll stop. But because we're doing share screen, I may not see that, but when you raise your hand, it does come up. So if you have questions along the way, feel free. This is the one thing I missed about this stage performance is that because it was 20 minutes, I didn't get a chance to interact with the crowd. And so this is, just think of it, I get to have my wish come true and you get to ask some questions. So by all means, stop me anytime throughout. Is that cool? Love it. Awesome. So I'll just do a little screen share here. Oh, not yet. Host disabled. So I'm going to have to get this. Okay, there we go. Boom. All right, so I'm just gonna pop this up here. I'm gonna put on my own glasses because And let's see. See, anybody can do this business, I tell you. So you guys probably would have saw I went through and I talked all about my, we live on a lake, right? So this is the whole thing that gets me excited, is that everything we do, it's like, this is our extended living room. And it was one of those things. Everybody, I'm sure that you guys talk about vision boards, you talk about dreams, you talk about, well, this was it. And, you know, you see Megan there, she's big into Wim Hof and cold plunging, me not so much. Lots of, you know, it's just, it's an amazing thing when you could bring your business to your house. And so what I really, I don't have my notes, but I'm gonna really try to captivate that. In order for you to get this lesson, you're gonna kind of have to understand sort of where you are right now. And once you get clarity on that, it's gonna be way easier to take you to the next destination. So it's just like a GPS, you know, you can punch in the coordinates, but those coordinates don't work if you don't know where your starting point is. Yeah. So let's talk about that starting point. And we all have had, you know, you see these before and after images. Maybe you've seen reels of them. Maybe you've had someone share it on their cell phone because it's personal. These ones happen to be mostly weight loss before and afters, but it was something that captured you to go, all right, I'm going to give this a whirl. And so what ends up happening is that, you know, I talked about it in my story, is that you get that initial aha moment. And so that aha moment may have come with collagen because your skin changed, or your hair, or maybe it came with a 30-day or something thereabouts. Could have been the premium pack or the ultimate pack. Either way, something changed that had you stay with Isagenix, continue to order, and decide to share. And so, you know, I went through the crowd, and we won't necessarily be able to do this here, but I just sort of asked by show of hands, who are the people that started with a 30-day system? And so I kind of got to capture that with the crew. And then I went through and I asked, you know, who started with the beauty bundle or the beauty afterglow bundle, and sort of just captured in the audience who had that. And then I talked about the OGs in the house, you know, the people who started with the original 9-day. Now, if there are any of you on this line, which most of you look pretty young, I don't think so, but if there are, you know that the 9-day did not look like this. It was some people running on a beach, you know, snack bites didn't exist, and the cleanse definitely didn't taste the way it does today. So I asked the question to people, I said, I want you to, and I want this to land for you, because it's funny, the previous call it was really helping people to sort of get centered to what their niche was inside Isagenix, what their identity was in Isagenix, what kind of light do they shine inside Isagenix. But with this, I want you to think that you're out and about, and maybe you have your Cannabia or your cleanse drink or your protein shake, and someone says to you, hey, what is Isagenix? And the reason I asked this, I don't want to get ahead of myself. The reason I ask this is often when people ask you what Isagenix is, the initial response is to just default with where your initial experience came from, where that aha came from. And so if it was the 30-day, well, you're probably going to talk about the 30-day. If it's collagen, you're probably going to talk about collagen. So what I share with people when they say, what is Isagenix, is I just say, Isagenix is a systems and solutions-based company that addresses the needs that most people are frustrated with. And so I actually changed that a little bit. Now I go, Isagenix is a solutions-based company with systems that address the needs that most people are frustrated with. So I wanted for the crowd to really kind of capture what I just gave you as an example of how people lead. And I said, can I create an analogy for you? And then so I put up the slide of the green apples, and I just asked people, I want you to imagine that your storefront, if you think of your personal storefront, is crates of green apples. So what do you think would be the most popular item sold at this storefront? And it's not a trick question, but it would be green apples. And so in Isagenix language, this might be collagen, or it might be that 30-day, because that's the system that you're used to talking about. But what if your storefront changed a little bit and it was green apples and red apples and yellow apples? You had, 3 different types of apples. So what that might translate to would be, perhaps having, a 30-day or a premium pack or a value pack, right? Well, what's the great thing about this is that what you've done by increasing that storefront is you've given people more choices. I mean, who doesn't want choices in their life? I love having choices. And the key thing for you to understand with this point is that when you have more choices, or you give people more choices, what tends to happen with your profits? They tend to go up because people have more things to choose from. Because at the end of the day, how many green apples can one person buy over a period of time? Because think of it this way, for those of you that start people with a 30-day, and they go through the first month, the second month, and maybe by the third month, they're not ordering anymore. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you just hit your goal weight. You just lost all those pounds and inches and you feel amazing. Why would you stop? And they're like, well, this is what I came here for. Because they didn't know what else was in store. You guys picking up what I'm throwing down? So having more choices is fantastic. But what if you had like a fruit stand where you had your red apples, your green apples, your yellow apples, but you got you see here, you got grapes and kiwis and oranges and mangoes and all these different things. So in Isogenics language, that might be having the 3 different basic, premium, and ultimate packs when it comes to the weight loss and the performance and the healthy aging. Again, there's more choices available. And what tends to happen when you have more choices? Yeah, more profits, right? I'm answering for you because nobody's unmuted, so don't worry about it. But now, how about this? What happens when your storefront is like the entire grocery store? And you're like, whoa. So this would be like, in Isogenics language, you got all your different packs, but you got your Zija, you got your, a skincare, you've got all the different things that Isogenics has to offer. Now, all of a sudden, with more choices, of course, that much more opportunity for more profit. But I know some of you are sitting there going, I just started and I'm only comfortable talking about collagen or the skincare or a 30-day. How can you possibly, Kyle, have me thinking about talking about all these products in the grocery store? Don't worry. We are not going to make you do that. Here's your job. Your job is to present the entire store. And really what that boils down to is that you're going to help your associate choose. And that's the key thing. Choose what is the right fit for them. You, of course, like you guys have been doing, you support them with that choice. But here's where the game changes. You continue to educate them about what else is in store. And so I'll give some examples of different things you can do afterwards, but we'll just keep rolling here. So think of it this way, right? What if your storefront had, the red apples, the green apples, and the yellow apples? That's kind of like, what you see here. Excuse me. What starts to happen is like, what happens after? What are you doing to educate people for their follow-up system? People start to get a change with their collagen and they've been taking 2 a day every day. How do you encourage them to continue with maintenance where maybe they go down to 1 a day and they add in some Celotoa? Sorry, I got to take a quick drink. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, I believe the majority of people in Isogenics, this is their storefront. This is all people know. And the reason I can say this is that we're 20 years in, and the perception in town is people still think we're weight loss, right? So if we go down, this is all the cool things that Isogenics has, right? And everybody in the crowd at the event went, whoa, because they got to see the new amp line colored boxes. So I know I can't only see so many faces. So I'm relying on Lauren to go, whoa, check out those new. So these are all the things that we have in store. Now, does this mean that you guys need to know everything about these products? No. So at the end of the day, when I think about what exists outside there, And what I mean by outside there is outside the world. Like when I leave my house, you know, I think of the things where isogenics, how does it help people? And if you go back to my first statement, where there's systems and solutions to help address the needs that most people are typically frustrated with. So if you look at weight management, and that could be both loss or gain, are there people out there that have frustrations with weight management? I would think so. Energy and performance. So, you know, you think of all the people that are going to the gym, excuse me, if you think of all the people that are going to the gym and their endurance, their recovery, their stamina, or how about people that are just busting their buns trying to get gains? Do you think there's frustrations out there for those people? And how about healthy aging? You know, I'm starting to notice things. There's some wrinkles that weren't there years ago. My joints are a little bit more stiff. My eyesight's off, whatever it may be. Mobility. Do you think there's frustrations for people with how they're aging right now? I think so. Brain health. This is a huge one. Memory, cognition, sleep. You know, I think of people out there, if they were to reflect back 5 years ago to where they are today, you know, do you think that they feel their brain is sharper, or is it decreasing? And if it's decreasing, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years? So do you think there's frustrations there? And then, of course, the financial health. You know, this, as we stated inside the event, for the first time ever, financial health has passed weight management as a New Year's goal. And so for myself, like, yeah, you know what, there's frustrations with taxes, frustrations with bills, frustrations with all those pain in the neck things that get in your way or stop other people from being able to do what they want to do. So when I present this, so if I was to give you guys an example, so, you know, let's say we're doing an op meeting. I always have a big whiteboard. And so I, of course, do what we always do. We acknowledge people for coming and, you know, welcome everyone. And you go through all your sort of formalities at the beginning. And then I just say to people, you know, what is isogenics? And I tell them what isogenics is with that statement that I said. Systems and solutions-based company that helps to address the needs that most people typically get frustrated with. Then I looked at the crowd and I say to them, let me ask you, what are some of the things when you think about it, especially with your health, that frustrates you? Just by show of hands. And I'll write down everything on that board. And you know what's really cool is between the guests, and of course you're going to have associates there as well, all these things are written down, but they come from the audience. And when it comes from the audience, especially if they shared it, when you get to talking about it, their ears are that much more perked. You guys following what I'm saying when it comes to an op meeting? But it's the same thing when you enroll somebody. I also still have these 5 solutions beside me, and I'm going to go through the language that I utilize. So I'll ask people. So they came to me because, be it the 30-day system or be it collagen, whatever it may be, and I just say to them, I say, hey, listen, you know, think of your own health. Where would you love it to be in the next 3, 6, 9, or 12 months? And really, what I'm getting at is there room for improvement outside of the current choice that you just made with enrolling with the 30-day system? And what I'll do is, of course, I always have this little piece beside me, is I'll look at them, I'll say, of the 5 options listed here, which ones may also be of interest to you now or at a later time? So I allow them the time to take a look at this, and I say, and listen, if there's more than one, please just let me know which one's the most important to you. And so the job, honestly, when you think about not wanting to step into going, remember I showed you the picture of the whole grocery store? You're like, wow, that's just too much. What I'm getting at tonight is, and this is very important, and I want this to land, and I repeated this 3 times, 4 times throughout the presentation, is that this is not to throw you off of what you're doing right now. Your job is to continue doing what you're doing right now. So if you're leading with a specific product that's getting you results, keep doing that. If you have a certain system that you guys are using, keep doing that. If there's something that the team has a flow in right now that is working, keep doing that. All we're talking about here is that at the time of enrollment, to be able to have these frustrations and just be able to ask them, hey, listen, are any of these other things here of interest to you now or possibly at a later time? Because here's the great thing. Let's say they came in with collagen, but healthy aging, depending on their age, is something else that they're concerned about. So you're going through with collagen, they're doing their 2 shots, 1 in the morning, 1 at nighttime, they're getting amazing results. What happens is, again, that first aha moment, people's blinds start to open. They start to gain trust. They start to gain belief. They start to go, wow, this stuff actually works. And you're, of course, because you're an exceptional coach, you are picking up on this with their excitement. And you start your, I would call it your drip campaign, where you're saying, hey, listen, I remember when we first talked, you mentioned healthy aging. Take a look at this article. And all you're doing is you're slowly educating them. Because what tends to happen, why attrition occurs with the company, is because people don't know what else is in store. They just think of that singular product that they started with. And this is where your opportunity comes to get this information up front, and you can utilize it later as your drip campaign, right? So take the extra time to share your storefront. This here, these, you can't see my finger, I'm circling these 5 things, right? That's the storefront. You're not having to explain every single product. You're not having to go through ingredients. You're not having to, give them the PhD on why Ionic Supreme works for them, like I used to do, right? So take the opportunity and just, your job is to present that storefront and guide them through different choices and see if there's any potential ways that they want to improve their health later on down the road, or even at that moment. You support that initial choice and you just keep educating people. That's the bottom line. And so I ended with just saying, master your craft, but also just keep presenting that full storefront. And, you guys will come up with your own way of how you want to present those 5 things. But the key thing is just to engage in that process. And you keep supporting people, keep educating them. And we've been given a brilliant, brilliant system, right? You look at the leader of this call. I think my wife was so excited, Jessica. She's like, I got to get on this. This is Jessica's call. I got to get on. So you might even find her in there somewhere. But TVC, because people say, how do I talk about these 5 things? I'm like, are you kidding me? TVC 1, 2, 3. It's right there. So even if you don't find the video you're looking for that's offered in the back office, we've got so much in isagenixhealth.net, isaproduct.com. We're going to be working with a group of individuals. We created a product training program to make your guys' life easier down the road. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's the nuts and the bolts. And I just really, I gave you the Coles Note versions, but I want to be able to just answer some questions and just let's bring some reality into this call for you guys versus me just flapping my gums. Because honestly, as any presenter, we just facilitate stuff. But at the end of the day, the juice, the real good stuff that really makes the call phenomenal is what you guys end up sharing or asking. So yeah, fire away. And I guess, Lauren, there's a lot of people on the call. So if you go down in the reactions, there's a little raised hand. So if you have a question or a comment or share a takeaway, an aha moment, just raise your hand and we'll be able to see in order who's got their hand up, and we'll go from there.
No one will go first.
We need some
So-
Jeopardy music, like ding,
I know. I'm going to ask you a question that just came to me, so I can go first. But I love that you're going to do this. You guys going to do some Q&A for about like 10 minutes, and then we'll let Kyle off to bed and all of you East Coast people off to bed. And Brandy, oh my gosh, that little baby in your arms. My question would be: how did you change this presentation, if anything? Just working with different markets, knowing that some products in the US are different than Canada, different than Europe, different than Australia. Would you do the same, or what would you do different?
Well, okay, so I'm going to give this is just this week, right? So I've got a gal who's in the UK, but she's from Poland. And so I talked about the Poland market, and she's like, well, tell me, like, what is Isagenix? And I just told her what Isagenix was. And I says, these are the 5 areas that we have solutions for. And it says, do you know of people that have frustrations? And I went through the areas and I talked about them a little bit more. I says, this is where we start to get you percolating. And I get her to, the next step is, top 20 names list, and away we go. So when it comes to different markets, we pretty much provide all the solutions in every market, but the products are different. So say, for instance, our teammates, Sean and Carolyn, they're in Mexico right now, right? Mexico doesn't have everything, and they also have their something's a little bit different. They have different packs than we do. Our traditional 30-day doesn't look like their 30-day. Our serving sizes don't look like theirs, but they still have the premise behind it. So they may not have things like nootropic elixir yet. They may not have things like NAD, but I'll tell you something, anybody that's done a 30-day, right? There's that lift of the brain fog. So you can still talk about those frustrations. You can pretty much run all of those frustrations off of just a 30-day, which is in all of our markets. So you can tailor it. So for instance, the second girl who's in Poland, she also lives in the States. She started with NAD, nootropic, and cytoactives, kind of like a little pack I'm working on with Dr. Gum, which is just strictly for brain, right? And so for me, what I love about how I used to do business compared to how I do business now is that the game change that has been made by the 20%, it's phenomenal, because I would in the back of my mind selfishly, right? Because how do you get your PIBs and double PIBs? Is there were certain systems, certain packs that people had to start with. And so you would always be, guiding towards the president's pack and then working your way down. And I really found that I was able to pay attention to people's goals, but now I'm really able to pay attention because I can customize something that fits all of their needs and piecemeal a pack, and I'm going to get compensated for it, even if it falls out of the PIB packs that we used to have. So that's just a huge, huge game changer. So I'm not sure if that answered your question properly. If it didn't, please, we'll keep going. Oh, Lauren, you got to.
Anybody want to? Sorry, I thought I did it. I did it, I think, twice. Anyways, that was perfect. Anybody else have a question or a takeaway or anything you want to pop out, Jeff? I know you're on here. Do you have anything you want to ask Kyle? Or
we got Teresa with her hand up. Go ahead, girl.
You're muted, babe. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. I have my first, I'm a newbie and so excited to be with everyone. I'm having my first party on Saturday. And after listening to you, I mean, we're trying to decide it's a collagen and coffee, okay? And we were thinking, we don't want to overwhelm our group of people. I went to the whole neighborhood. I've invited the whole neighborhood. So, 75 invites. We'll see. And I'm excited. But do we put the whole storefront out there? Do we display the whole storefront?
Yeah, such a good question. So the olden days, right, where my mindset was practitioner mindset, all of them had brochures and ingredients, and I'm going to just recite to you what we did our last home presentation here. And again, pick what fits for you, right? So, because there was a second part that I'll share with you. All we had that night was a 7-day system. That was what was sitting down in front. By asking the crowd the frustrations that they see that are most common or were personal to them, I wrote those down on the board, because collagen, it's going to address definitely a number of those frustrations. But if you did want to open it up, I asked the frustrations, right? And so people came up with it. And then what we did is we had one testimony. So we had a testimony for weight loss, a testimony for energy and performance, one for healthy aging, and one for brain health, right? And so we went through those testimonies, and I showed them what a typical program to start to create your foundation looks like. And so I showed them the 7-day. And here's what we did different that really was a game changer for my mentality that I want to pass to you guys. Often we do a lot of product education, right? And so all I did is that, right? PVC 1, 2, 3. I did the 1, 2, 3. but I didn't do 1, 2, 3. I did 3, 2, 1. And the first question I asked is, I said, some of you tonight may have seen something here, because we had a testimony for financial health. Some of you tonight may have seen something here where you're like, I wouldn't mind learning a little bit more about this. And so the first one I'm going to introduce you to is to be able to go, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying these products out. I know there's a 30-day money back guarantee, so I'm kind of covered there. I definitely would love to have them paid for, but there's like, I saw a bigger picture here and I'm looking for a plan B. So if you're someone who is looking to increase their financial portfolio, or someone who wants recurring income in your life, what I want you to do is just go ahead and raise your hands. And so the people that raise their hands, I said, I want you to go downstairs, and Sean is going to kind of unpack this for you a little bit to give you an idea how this looks. So it was amazing, because 50% of the people went downstairs with Sean. And I was like, whoa. So then I did number 2. I said, number 2, you're someone who, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying the products out. And really at the end of the day, I'm comfortable with where I am, but I want to get my products paid for. I don't need any additional expenses in my life. Who would love to get their products paid for and to give them a try? Raise your hands. So everybody raised their hands except for one person. I said, you're going to meet Megan and Caroline in the kitchen, and they're going to go through discussing with you how to get your products paid for with your initial investment. And then it was funny, because I would always say, who would love to learn more about the products? And there was one lady. And I was like, hey girl, it's you and I. Let's talk about the products. So in that space, I don't have my agenda. I just get the questions from people. Because yes, there was a time, Teresa, I'm glad you asked, where I would have this agenda of going through like Ionic Supreme and the cleanse and the shakes and all the stuff that we had at that time. Oh my gosh. When do you give people information? When they ask for it. So I'd rather have an audience that asks me the questions and I give them the answers. And of course, you're thinking, I'm brand new, Kyle. I'm not going to have the same knowledge that you do. So you're going to have some knowledge, but you're going to be able to say, I love that. I want you to write this down, and you direct them to isagenixhealth.net, or you direct them to just the isagenix.com, because most people don't realize the knowledge that's inside isagenix.com when you click on the solution areas. It's better than it ever was with isoproduct.com. So you don't have to know everything. That's the whole thing. I love it. But if you're if you already got something that you want to try and you're comfortable with, go for it. Maybe you do this on your next meeting. But either way, that's what worked for us the last go around. And again, I was shocked, because I thought, I'm going to go reverse. Because if I said, who wants to learn more about the products first, I guarantee you the majority of the room would have put their hand up.
Mhm.
So there
Great.
you go. Great
Thank
question.
you.
Great question. Awesome. Who else?
Hey, Kyle, what's the number one thing you're telling somebody who's ready to run to the moon? What are you telling them to do right now? What's the one thing you're saying?
Yeah. So I've got an executive leadership call that we do. And the first thing that we did is I said, look, number 1, I want you to get just right now, your brand new top 20 names list. Brand new. I says, because you guys have had people that you've been percolating with and back and brand new top 20 names list. Then what we're going to do is I want you to go through these names, and you're going to have a visual guy. You're going to have a red pen. And I want you to put a red star beside all the names that you know these people really need this for their health. Yes, everybody needs isagenix for their health. Got it. But there's people that you're like, wow, this is going to be a game changer for them. Put a red star beside those names, right? Then you're going to look at your list again with a blue pen, right? I want you to put a blue star beside the people that you know are like yourself. They're driven. They have an entrepreneurial mindset. They think outside of the box. They want more for their life. I want you to put a blue star beside those names. Not everyone will have one, but go ahead and put a blue star, and some are going to have both. Then I say on your executive, you're going to have your crystal executive map. All of the names that have both a red star and a blue star, I want you to transfer them onto your crystal executive map. Now, so this is someone who won't be seasoned, but they're ready to rock and roll. I say, when you look at these 5 solutions that are here, I want you with the names that are on your map to put the number of the solution that you think is the most fit for them. And for me, I've reversed it. Number 1 solution is financial health. Then I do weight, da, 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 da. So I said that you're going to have some names that are going to have a 1 and something else, or they're going to have something else. This is how we're going to connect with them. And I'm going to give you the language on how to do this. So the next call, right? We go through and I give them scripts on if you are nervous with somebody and you're like, and it's a very polite way for them to check this out. Listen, you came to my mind. I want you to, I really value and respect your opinion. Can you take a look at this and just let me know what first comes up to mind for you? And while you're watching this, I would love it, Jessica, if you could think of people that you know that could benefit from this. So the number that I thought was a fit for Jessica is the video that she's going to get. So I get her feedback and you go from there. The next one would be someone who perhaps I know, right? And I'm like, girl, you were telling me the other day that you were online looking for some collagen stuff. I think I found something that would be a fantastic fit for you. Check out the results that are on here. I'm going to call you back, and you gotta set the time in that moment of when you're going to follow up with them. So that second person, you're giving them the video, you're excited for them. This is what you were talking about. So maybe it was a girl that was talking about New Year's resolution for weight loss. Maybe it was someone who, you know, again, collagen is the big thing that's out there right now. So you're giving them that video. The third one, this is when, like, you know, I can see Jessica calling Megan. Girl, check this out. This is going to rock your freaking socks off. You and we're going to do some serious damage with this. I'm going to call you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. You got to watch this video. So there's like, you know, the person, you know, that like, and so they watch it, and because you have a comfort zone. So at the end of the day, if people at the beginning, because what they're trying to do is go, what do I do? What do I say? And you know what my famous last words for Warren was? So this is way back, you guys, like I started in 2004. And so 2008 is when I decided to get going. I said, Warren, just tell me what to do, tell me what to say, I'll do it. And he goes, he didn't know. Nobody knew then. Just like, talk to people, like, and so now for me, there are going to be naturals. You're going to have your Jessicas, you're going to have your people that are going to, it's like, they're gone. You don't have to do that for them. But I want people to get the aha moment. You already got your first one, right? Where whatever it is that you chose to do is working. But your second one, when Jessica says, hey, listen, you've drawn out, you know, I do this thing where I draw out for people what they're going to make. Then I take them down a journey and I show them the back end money. And I say, you know what, this might be confusing for you. Don't worry about it. We can do this. Oh, you know what? That's too much for you. Don't worry about it. We can do, you know what? I'm going to meet you where you're at. We're going to start here. And I show them that money. And I say, when you connect with these people, give them the odds. Tell them you're going to talk to 10 of these people and 2 of them are going to say yes. 10 of them or 8 of them are going to tell you to get stuff. Be prepared for that. That's one thing I wish I was told, because, you know, guy from 100 Mile, Canadian. What do you mean you don't want to watch that? Right? I didn't know, but now I know the numbers, and I think I've done a disservice through my years of not preparing people that this is normal. This is natural. And so, yeah, does that answer that question? Sorry, I see you get me going, girl. I've been talking all night long. I'm like a rambling machine now.
Well, you
want,
guys
Jessica,
put some hearts and smiley faces, you know, emoji expressions out there if you are thrilled for this. Kat, thank you for swiping the slides. I know they don't always give us to us when we train. Such valuable information. You make it so relatable, and I love the tip about where to get that you don't have to be a pro at everything. And that last little golden nugget, you know, to just be realistic with the numbers is amazing. So thank you so much for your time. Both Juniors in Action and Team Win are so thankful to have you. And if there's anything Jess or me or anybody in the team can do to return a favor for you and your team, please know we're here for you. And have a wonderful night. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you guys all for being on. Have a great night.
do me a favor. Get Tinley's question to me. so I can answer it. She had her hand up at the end. And Jessica, if you want those scripts, I'll pass those on to you as well. Thank you guys for the invite.
Awesome.
Gratitude,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.